Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars blur past as his ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. After 3 months of travel, they had finally reached the Kepler 442 system. This was humanity's first real exploration mission beyond their home solar system, and Jake felt the weight of history on his shoulders. "Captain, we're picking up some strange readings," said Lieutenant Amy Carter from her station. She was the ship's science officer, a young woman with bright eyes who had dreamed of meeting alien life since she was a child. "There's definitely technology here, but something's wrong." Jake moved closer to look at her screen. The planet below them looked wrong. From space, it should have been blue and green like Earth, but instead it showed brown and gray. Large dark spots covered the surface like burns. "Take us closer," Jake ordered, "but keep our shields up." As the New Horizon moved toward the planet, more details became clear. What they had thought were natural formations were actually the remains of cities. Massive craters dotted the landscape where buildings once stood. "The oceans looked dirty and lifeless, my God," whispered Amy. "What happened here?" "Captain," called out Ensign Rick Foster from the communications station. "I'm detecting a large object in orbit. It's huge." Jake looked at the main screen as their sensors found the object. It was a ship, but unlike anything humans had ever built. The vessel was over 1 kilometer long, shaped like a massive spear with curved blades extending from its sides. Its hull was dark metal that seemed to absorb light. "Is it active?" Jake asked. "No, sir," Rick replied. "No power signatures. It looks dead." "But Captain," Amy said, her voice shaking, "look at what's attached to the hull." Jake squinted at the image as Amy enhanced it. Along the sides of the alien ship, hundreds of objects were mounted like decorations. As the image became clearer, Jake's stomach turned. They were bones, skulls, preserved body parts from dozens of different creatures. "It's a trophy ship," Amy whispered. Someone was collecting these. Jake had seen enough war to recognize the signs. This wasn't just conquest. This was hunting. "Send a landing party to the surface," he ordered. "I want to know what happened here. And prepare a team to board that ship. But everyone goes armed." 2 hours later, Jake was walking through the ruins of what had been a major city. The buildings were melted and twisted, turned to glass by incredible heat. His team found bodies, but they were unlike anything in Earth's fossil records. These aliens had been tall and thin, with large heads and long fingers. "They looked peaceful, not like warriors, Captain." Amy's voice came through his radio. "You need to see this." Jake found Amy standing in what looked like a library or museum. The walls were covered with pictures and symbols. Amy had connected her translation computer to the alien systems and was slowly making sense of their language. "They called themselves the Zaloni," Amy explained. "This planet was their homeworld. According to their records, they were artists and philosophers. They never fought wars among themselves. What happened to them?" Amy pointed to a series of pictures on the wall. They showed the same dark ships arriving from space. The pictures told a story of terror and death. The aliens had tried to surrender, but it didn't matter. They were hunted down one by one until none remained. "The attackers called themselves the Vorthak," Amy said. "And Captain, this wasn't their first hunt. The Zaloni kept records of other species that had sent distress calls. The Vorthak have been doing this for over 1,000 years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How many species? At least 40 that the Zaloni knew about. All extinct now. Jake's radio crackled with another voice. It was Commander Ben Hayes, leading the team that had boarded the alien ship. "Captain, you need to get up here right now." Jake and Amy took a shuttle to the trophy ship. Ben met them at the airlock, his face pale. "Sir, this ship is like a floating museum of genocide. Every species they've killed is represented here. We found databanks that show their hunting patterns." Ben led them through corridors lined with display cases. Each one contained bones, skulls, and preserved specimens from different worlds. Jake saw creatures that looked like insects, others like giant birds, some that might have been mammals. All were clearly intelligent species that had built civilizations. "They don't just kill for territory or resources," Ben explained. "They hunt for sport. Each species is a trophy to them." They reached the ship's main computer room. Amy quickly connected her systems and began downloading data. "Captain," she said after several minutes, "I'm reading their star charts. The Vorthak have cleared out this entire arm of the galaxy. There are no intelligent species left except what?" Amy's face went white. "Except us." And Captain, I'm detecting active Vorthak ships changing course. They're heading toward Earth. Jake felt his blood turn to ice. How long do we have? Amy worked frantically at her computer. Based on their ship speeds and our distance from Earth, 18 months. Maybe less, sir, Ben said quietly. We found records of how other species reacted when the Vorthak arrived. Most tried to run. Some tried to hide. A few tried to fight with conventional weapons. He paused. None of them worked. Jake stared at the display cases full of bones and felt anger building in his chest. These hunters had wiped out entire civilizations, species that had created art and music and literature. They had killed billions of thinking, feeling beings for no reason except the thrill of the hunt. Download everything, he ordered. Every file, every record, every piece of data about these Vorthak. We're going home, sir? Amy asked. What are we going to tell Earth? Jake looked one more time at the trophies lining the walls. 40 extinct species stared back at him with empty eye sockets. We're going to tell them that the hunters are coming, he said, and that we'd better be ready. As the New Horizon prepared to leave the dead system, Jake made a promise to himself and to the ghosts of all the extinct species around him. Humanity would not go quietly into extinction. The Vorthak had spent 1,000 years perfecting their hunt, but they had never faced prey like humans before. The hunt was coming to Earth, but Jake was determined that this time, the prey would be ready. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood in the command center of the Global Defense Initiative, watching as reports flooded in from across Earth. In the 6 months since Captain Morrison's return with news of the Vorthak threat, humanity had transformed itself in ways no one thought possible. Admiral, the European Union reports their last factory conversion is complete, announced Captain Steve Parker, her aide. All civilian spacecraft production has been switched to military vessels. Lisa nodded, but her attention was focused on the massive holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked new defensive positions throughout the outer planets. Blue dots showed human fleets training in the asteroid belt. Green dots marked the secret weapon factories hidden in the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Unlike every other species the Vorthak had hunted, humanity had one advantage. They knew the hunters were coming. Dr. Alex Turner approached the Admiral's station, carrying a datapad full of technical readings. Alex was the lead scientist studying the captured Vorthak ship, and his discoveries had changed everything about human military planning. Admiral, we've finished analyzing their technology, Alex said. The good news is that their weapons and shields aren't as advanced as we feared. The bad news is that they don't need to be. Explain, Lisa said. Alex pulled up a display showing Vorthak ship designs. They've been using the same basic technology for centuries. Their ships are tough and their weapons are powerful, but they haven't improved or changed. When every species you meet runs away or dies quickly, you don't need to innovate. So they're overconfident? Extremely. But Admiral, we also found something else. Every species they hunted tried to fight them the same way. Big fleets, direct combat, conventional tactics. The Vorthak have perfected their response to that kind of warfare. Lisa smiled grimly. Good thing we're not planning to fight them conventionally. She turned to Commander Ben Hayes, who was studying tactical displays with a group of military officers from around the world. Ben had spent the last 6 months completely rethinking human combat doctrine. Ben, show the doctor our new approach, Lisa said. Ben activated a simulation showing the solar system. Instead of large fleets positioned for direct battle, the display showed thousands of small objects scattered throughout space. We're not going to meet them in a traditional space battle, Ben explained. We're going to turn the entire solar system into a trap. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris will be a potential weapon. The simulation showed how the plan would work. As Vorthak ships entered the solar system, they would be met by what appeared to be fleeing civilian vessels and scattered military forces. But hidden among the apparent refugees were automated weapons platforms designed to look like escape pods. The key is making them think they're seeing the same pattern they've seen for 1,000 years. Ben continued. A species in panic trying to run or hide. They'll move into their standard hunting formation, and that's when we spring the trap. Dr. Alex showed them another display. We're also using their psychology against them. The Vorthak are apex predators. They've evolved to hunt prey that runs or hides. They've never faced prey that hunts back. Engineer Kate Sullivan joined the group, fresh from the weapon production facilities. Kate had been working around the clock on what the humans called the Trojan Protocol. "The automated weapons are ready," Kate reported. "Each one looks exactly like a civilian escape pod or damaged ship. The Vorthak sensors won't detect them as threats until it's too late." "How many do we have?" Lisa asked. "Over 2,000 and more coming online every day. Each one carries enough firepower to cripple a Vorthak ship." Lisa looked around at her team. In just 6 months, they had accomplished what no other species had managed in 1,000 years of Vorthak hunting. They had prepared for the hunters. "Admiral," Steve Parker called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the outer sensor network." Lisa's heart jumped. "Are they here?" "No, ma'am, but we're detecting the edge of their fleet. 12 months out, just as Captain Morrison predicted." The command center fell silent. Everyone knew this moment would come, but hearing it made it real. The most successful predators in galactic history were coming to hunt humanity. "Send the signal to all units," Lisa ordered. "Operation Reversal is now active. I want every ship, every weapon, every person ready." As alarms began sounding across Earth and throughout the solar system, Lisa thought about the records they had found on the Vorthak ship. 40 extinct species, each one unique and valuable, wiped out for sport. The Zaloni with their art and philosophy, the Murthans with their music, the Corvani with their poetry, all dead because they had tried to run or hide when the hunters came. But humanity would not run. They would not hide. They had spent a year studying their enemy, learning their weaknesses, and preparing surprises that no prey species had ever attempted. Captain Morrison appeared on the communication screen from his position with the Outer Defense Fleet. "Admiral, all ships are in position. The men and women are ready. Any last thoughts, Jake?" Lisa asked. Morrison's face was hard with determination. "The Vorthak have spent 1,000 years perfecting their hunt. But they've never hunted humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when we're fighting for our survival." Lisa nodded. Around the command center, officers from every nation on Earth worked side by side. The threat of extinction had done what centuries of politics couldn't. It had united humanity completely. "All stations, this is Admiral Rodriguez," she announced on the global communication network. "The hunters are coming. But for the first time in their history, they're going to face prey that's ready for them." She paused, thinking of all the extinct species whose bones decorated Vorthak ships. For the Zaloni, for the Murthans, for all the species that couldn't fight back. Today we make our stand. Today we show the galaxy that the age of extinction hunts is over. As reports came in from across the solar system, Lisa felt a mixture of fear and determination. The next year would determine whether humanity joined the long list of extinct species, or whether they could do something no species had ever done before: make the hunters pay. The Vorthak were coming, confident in their 1,000-year reign of terror, but they were about to learn that humans were unlike any prey they had ever hunted. War Alpha Jektar stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the display screen. Behind him, the greatest hunting fleet in Vorthak history spread across space like a dark cloud. Over 300 ships, each one decorated with trophies from extinct civilizations. The blue planet ahead was the home of the newest prey species, humans. Jektar's scouts had reported that these creatures were primitive, having only recently achieved space travel. Like all the others, they would provide good hunting before their inevitable extinction. War Alpha, his second-in-command, reported, "We are receiving a transmission from the prey world." Jektar's mandibles clicked in amusement. This was always the same. First came the desperate attempts to communicate, usually offering surrender or begging for mercy. Neither would save them. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The display showed a human male in military uniform. The creature looked directly at the camera with an expression Jektar had never seen from prey before: defiance. "This is Captain Steve Parker of Earth Defense Command," the human said. "We know who you are and why you're here. We've seen what you did to the Zaloni, the Murthans, and all the others." Jektar was slightly surprised. Most prey species didn't learn about the Vorthak until the hunting began. This one had somehow gained advanced knowledge. "We have one message for you," the human continued. "Come and take it." The transmission ended. Jektar stared at the blank screen, confused. In 1,000 years of hunting, no prey species had ever issued a challenge. They begged, they ran, they hid, but they never challenged the hunters. "War Alpha?" his weapons officer asked. Shall we begin the standard intimidation bombardment? Jektar considered this. The intimidation bombardment usually involved destroying a few empty areas to demonstrate Vorthak power. It caused panic and made the prey easier to hunt, but something about this species felt different. No, he decided. These humans seem unusually aggressive for prey. We will proceed directly to hunting formation and end this quickly. The Vorthak fleet spread out into their traditional pattern, surrounding the inner solar system. Jektar had used this formation to trap dozens of species. Large ships blocked escape routes while smaller vessels moved in to begin the actual hunting. War Alpha, we're detecting human ships approaching, reported the sensor officer. Multiple vessels, but they appear to be fleeing in disorder. Jektar looked at the tactical display. Perfect. The humans were reacting exactly like every other prey species, running in panic when they saw the size of the Vorthak fleet. Some of the human vessels appeared damaged. The sensor officer continued. Several are leaking atmosphere and moving slowly. Excellent. Begin the hunt. Target the damaged vessels first. Easy prey to start with. As the Vorthak ships moved into attack formation, Jektar felt the familiar thrill of the hunt beginning. Soon there would be new trophies for his collection, and another species would join the long list of the extinct. The first wave of Vorthak hunters swept toward the fleeing human ships, their weapons charged, ready to disable and capture their prey for the sport of the hunt. But as they closed in, something impossible happened. The damaged human ships suddenly came alive. What had appeared to be leaking atmosphere was actually concealed weapon ports opening. What had looked like structural damage was actually armor plating sliding away to reveal massive guns. Ambush, screamed the sensor officer, but it was too late. Hidden among the fleeing ships were hundreds of automated weapons platforms, each one designed to look like a harmless escape pod or civilian vessel. As Admiral Rodriguez had planned, the Vorthak had moved into perfect position for the trap. The first salvo from the hidden human weapons tore through the Vorthak formation. Ships that had survived centuries of hunting were suddenly burning in space, their hulls cracked open by weapons fire that came from every direction. Jektar watched in shock as his tactical display turned from green to red. In less than 10 minutes, he had lost over 100 ships, more than he had lost in the last century of hunting combined. How is this possible? He roared. Prey does not hunt predators. But the humans weren't finished. As the Vorthak fleet tried to regroup, human ships that had appeared to be fleeing suddenly turned and attacked. They moved in patterns Jektar had never seen before, using tactics that no prey species had ever attempted. Commander Rick Foster led a squadron of human fighters in a direct assault on a crippled Vorthak vessel. As his boarding party cut through the alien hull, Rick got his first close look at the enemies that had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years. The Vorthak were massive creatures, over 3 meters tall with natural armor plating and razor-sharp claws. They had evolved to be perfect predators, but as Rick and his team fought through the ship's corridors, he realized something important. These aliens had never faced real resistance before. They were deadly hunters, but they had no experience with actual combat against intelligent opponents. Every species they had encountered had either run or died quickly. They had never learned to fight a real war. Fall back to defensive positions. Jektar ordered his remaining ships. For the first time in his life, he was retreating from prey, but the humans pursued. Captain Morrison's flagship opened fire on Jektar's command ship, and for a moment the War Alpha thought he might actually die in this battle. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the humans are sending another transmission." The display showed Admiral Rodriguez on the bridge of her command ship. Behind her, human officers worked calmly at their stations while explosions lit up space around them. "Attention, Vorthak fleet," she said. "You came here expecting to hunt another helpless species. You were wrong. We know about your 1,000-year reign of terror. We've seen the bones of the species you've driven extinct." Rodriguez paused, and her expression became deadly serious. "You wanted to hunt humans? Fine. But now you're going to learn what it feels like to be the prey." As if responding to her words, human ships appeared throughout the solar system. They emerged from hiding places in asteroids, rose from the surfaces of moons, and dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edges of the system. The humans hadn't just prepared a defense. They had prepared a trap on a scale that covered the entire solar system. Jektar realized with growing horror that his mighty hunting fleet was now surrounded and outnumbered. For the first time in Vorthak history, The hunters had become the hunted. "Send a message to the Dominion," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them we have encountered something new. Tell them the prey has learned to fight back." As more human ships closed in around his battered fleet, Jektar understood that everything was about to change. The age of easy hunting was over. Captain Nina Brooks stood on the bridge of the human starship Defiance as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel, near a Vorthak outpost. 6 months had passed since the battle at Earth, and the war had spread across the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Vorthak were on the defensive. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Sam Garcia from the sensor station, "the outpost has 12 ships in orbit. Standard Vorthak hunting formation." Nina smiled grimly. The Vorthak still hadn't learned to adapt their tactics. They kept using the same formations that had worked against every other species. But these formations were useless against humans who fought back intelligently. "Signal the fleet," Nina ordered. "Execute attack pattern Delta." The human ships moved in a coordinated assault that would have been impossible for any prey species the Vorthak had previously encountered. Instead of running or trying to hide, the humans used combined tactics, electronic warfare, and psychological pressure to break apart the alien formation. As the battle raged, Nina thought about how much had changed since the first contact with the Vorthak. News of humanity's resistance had spread throughout the galaxy, reaching the scattered survivors of extinct civilizations. For the first time in centuries, these refugees had hope. Sava Chen, a young engineer whose parents had been rescued from a dying Murthan colony, worked at the tactical station. Her people had been musicians and artists before the Vorthak came. Now she helped plan attacks against the hunters who had destroyed her homeworld. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," Sava reported. "It's not Vorthak." The main screen showed a strange alien face, large eyes, pale skin, and features that looked almost human. The creature was speaking in a language the translation computers didn't recognize. "Wait," Sava said, working frantically at her console. "I know this language. It's Old Corvani. My grandmother taught me some of the words." As Sava worked to translate, the alien repeated its message over and over. Finally, the translation appeared on screen. "Help us. We are hidden. The hunters do not know we survive." Nina felt her heart jump. The Corvani were supposed to be extinct, wiped out by the Vorthak 300 years ago. But apparently some had survived, hiding on this remote world while the hunters moved on to find easier prey. "Send a landing party," Nina ordered. "And contact Admiral Rodriguez. She needs to know about this." 2 hours later, Nina was walking through underground tunnels carved from solid rock. The Corvani had spent 3 centuries living like ghosts, hiding from the hunters who thought they had killed them all. The alien who had sent the message was named Draktoth. He was old even by Corvani standards, one of the few who remembered life before the Vorthak came. His people had been philosophers and warrior poets, known throughout the galaxy for their wisdom and courage. "We heard the messages," Draktoth explained through Sava's translation. "The humans who fight the hunters. We thought it was impossible." "Why?" Nina asked. "Because every species tries the same thing. They build big fleets, fight direct battles, use conventional weapons. The Vorthak have perfected their response to that kind of warfare. They always win, but humans fight differently." Draktoth's large eyes studied Nina carefully. "You do not fight like prey. You fight like predators. This confuses the Vorthak. Their instincts tell them that prey runs or hides. When prey attacks back, they do not know how to respond." Over the following days, Nina learned more about Vorthak psychology from the hidden Corvani. Dr. Alex Turner's research back on Earth had been correct. The hunters were genetically programmed to respond to certain behaviors. When their prey acted in unexpected ways, their instincts actually worked against them. "There are others," Draktoth revealed. "Survivors from many worlds. Small groups hiding in asteroid fields, underground cities, space stations disguised as debris. The Vorthak think they killed everyone, but some always escape." Nina immediately contacted Admiral Rodriguez with this information. Within weeks, human ships were making contact with survivor populations throughout the galaxy. Species that had been extinct for centuries began emerging from hiding. But the most important discovery came when Commander Mia Adams led a strike team to infiltrate a Vorthak trophy station. This massive space structure orbited a dead star in the outer rim of the galaxy, far from any inhabited worlds. Mia had volunteered for the mission despite knowing how dangerous it was. The trophy station was where the Vorthak kept their most prized hunting trophies, specimens and artifacts from every species they had driven extinct. Getting inside required careful planning. Mia's team used a captured Vorthak transport ship, with human soldiers disguised as alien crew members. The station's guards were lazy and overconfident, never expecting anyone to attack their sacred trophy collection. What Mia found inside changed everything. The station was like a massive museum of genocide. Corridor after corridor lined with display cases containing remains from hundreds of different species. Some were clearly intelligent beings, the preserved bodies of artists, scientists, children, and families from worlds that no longer existed. But the worst discovery was in the central chamber. Here, the Vorthak kept living specimens, the last few individuals from nearly extinct species, kept alive in cages for the entertainment of visiting hunters. Mia found Zeloni artists forced to create paintings for their captors, mirth and musicians made to play funeral songs for their own dead species, children from a dozen different worlds who had never seen their home planets because they had been born in captivity. "My God," whispered Sergeant Kevin Walsh, one of Mia's team members. "They're not just killers. They're torturers." Mia quickly realized that this station was more than just a trophy collection. It was an information center. The Vorthak kept detailed records of every species they had hunted, including their weaknesses, their social structures, and their likely responses to different hunting tactics. "Download everything," Mia ordered. Every file, every record, every piece of data. As her team worked to copy the Vorthak databases, Mia freed the surviving prisoners. Many were too damaged psychologically to understand what was happening, but others realized immediately that rescue had finally come. One of the rescued Zeloni, a young artist named Vextar, grabbed Mia's hand with desperate strength. "You are the humans," he said in broken English, "the ones who fight the hunters." "Yes," Mia replied, "and we're going to make sure they can never hunt again." The data stolen from the trophy station revealed the true scope of Vorthak crimes. They had destroyed over 200 intelligent species, not for territory or resources, but purely for sport. Billions of sentient beings had died to satisfy their hunting instincts, but the data also revealed Vorthak weaknesses. Their command structure was rigid and based on hunting success. Their tactics hadn't changed in centuries. Most importantly, they had never faced sustained resistance from multiple species working together. As news of the trophy station discovery spread throughout human space and to the survivor communities, something unprecedented began to happen. Species that had been enemies before the Vorthak arrived started working together. Ancient feuds were forgotten in the face of a common threat. Admiral Rodriguez announced humanity's new strategy from the bridge of her flagship. "We're not just fighting to defend Earth anymore. We're fighting to end the Vorthak threat forever. Every species they've hunted, every world they've destroyed, every life they've taken, it all ends now." The age of extinction hunts was about to face its greatest challenge. Humanity had united the galaxy's survivors, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the hunters were about to become the hunted on a galactic scale. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the massive human fleet carrier New Earth as it approached the Vorthak homeworld. Around her ship, the largest fleet in galactic history spread across space. Human vessels flew alongside ships crewed by Corvani survivors, rebuilt Zeloni craft, and improvised vessels carrying refugees from dozens of supposedly extinct species. "Admiral," reported Captain Jake Morrison from his position aboard the flagship Defiance, "long-range sensors confirm the Vorthak home defense fleet is moving to intercept us." Lisa looked at the tactical display showing the enemy forces. The Vorthak had awakened every ship in their ancient defense fleet, vessels that had slept in orbit around their homeworld for thousands of years. At the center of the formation was the largest ship any human had ever seen, a massive fortress ship commanded by War Supreme Quetzara herself. "They're bringing everything they have," observed Dr. Alex Turner, who had joined the fleet to study Vorthak technology. "This is their last stand," Lisa nodded. After 18 months of war, the Vorthak Empire was crumbling. Human tactics had proven too adaptable for their rigid hunting methods. Survivor species had emerged from hiding to strike at Vorthak outposts. The hunters who had terrorized the galaxy for a millennium were facing extinction themselves. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak flagship," announced Communications Officer Diana Fox. The main screen showed War Supreme Ketzara, the largest Vorthak Lisa had ever seen. Her natural armor was decorated with trophies from hundreds of hunts, and her eyes held the cold intelligence of an apex predator. Humans, Ketzara spoke in accented English, you have proven to be more challenging prey than we expected. But this ends now. You face the full might of the Vorthak Dominion. Lisa stepped forward. War Supreme, we're not here to be hunted. We're here to end your reign of terror forever. Impossible. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. We have hunted for 1,000 years. That's exactly why you're going to lose, Lisa replied. You've spent so long hunting helpless prey that you've forgotten how to fight real enemies. Ketzara's mandibles clicked in anger. You will learn why 40 species have fallen before us. The transmission ended. Lisa turned to her fleet commanders. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez. Today we fight not just for humanity, but for every species the Vorthak have destroyed. For the Zoloni who created beautiful art. For the Murthans who filled the galaxy with music. For all the children who never got to grow up because these hunters killed them for sport. The battle began as the two fleets closed with each other. The Vorthak used their traditional tactics. Overwhelming firepower and intimidation. Their massive ships fired weapons that could crack planets, filling space with deadly energy. But the human fleet didn't respond the way other prey species had. Instead of breaking formation and fleeing, they adapted. Smaller ships used the cover of larger vessels to get close to Vorthak ships. Coordinated attacks targeted specific systems rather than trying to destroy entire vessels. Captain Nina Brooks led a squadron of fast attack ships in a daring assault on the Vorthak battle line. Her ships moved in patterns that confused the alien gunners, who were used to prey that either ran in straight lines or tried to hide behind obstacles. Remember, Nina broadcast to her pilots, they've never faced enemies who think tactically. Use that against them. The human tactics worked. Vorthak ships that had dominated space battles for centuries found themselves outmaneuvered by smaller, more agile human vessels. The aliens' instincts, honed by millennia of hunting, actually worked against them when facing intelligent opposition. As the main battle raged, Jake Morrison led a boarding assault on Ketzara's flagship. His team included humans, Corvani survivors, and rescued Zoloni, all working together with a coordination no prey species had ever achieved. The fight through the Vorthak ship was brutal. The aliens were naturally stronger and better armed than any individual human, but they had never faced enemies who used teamwork and tactical thinking in close combat. Jake found Ketzara in the ship's command center, surrounded by her personal guards. The War Supreme was even more massive up close. A perfect killing machine evolved over millions of years. So the prey comes to face the predator, she hissed, raising her natural claws. I'm not prey, Jake replied, drawing his weapon. I'm just someone who's tired of bullies. The fight was savage but brief. Ketzara was faster and stronger than Jake, but she fought like a hunter facing cornered prey. Jake fought like a soldier facing an enemy, using tactics and strategy rather than just instinct. When Ketzara fell, something unprecedented happened. Jake could have killed her easily, but instead he helped her up. Why? The War Supreme gasped. Why do you not finish the hunt? Because we're not like you, Jake explained. We don't kill for sport. This simple act of mercy broke something fundamental in the Vorthak psyche. Ketzara stared at Jake in confusion. In her entire life, she had never encountered a predator that chose not to kill defeated prey. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human forces captured rather than destroyed Vorthak ships. The hunters who had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years found themselves facing enemies who fought to stop them, not to exterminate them. The war ended not with a massive explosion, but with a simple order from Admiral Rodriguez. All Vorthak forces, lay down your weapons. This ends now. To everyone's surprise, they did. Faced with enemies who offered mercy instead of revenge, the Vorthak surrender was swift and complete. The years that followed were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of executing the Vorthak or driving them to extinction, humanity led an effort to rehabilitate them. Dr. Amy Carter, now heading the Galactic Restoration Project, worked with reformed Vorthak scientists to locate and restore damaged worlds. The process wasn't easy. Many Vorthak struggled to understand concepts like mercy and cooperation. They had been genetically programmed to hunt, and learning to coexist required fundamental changes to their entire society. But slowly, progress was made. Young Vorthak, raised without the hunting culture of their elders, began to work alongside humans and other species. Former hunting ships were converted into exploration and rescue vessels. 5 years after the final battle, Lisa Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting a restored world. Below, the planet that had once been a barren Vorthak hunting ground was green again. Cities were rising where crater had once marked the deaths of entire civilizations. "Admiral," said a voice behind her. Lisa turned to see Vexitar, the young Zeloni artist they had rescued from the trophy station. He was older now, but his eyes held hope instead of the terror she remembered. "How are the schools progressing?" Lisa asked. "Better than we hoped," Vexitar replied. "Human children, Zeloni, Corvani, even young Vorthak, they all learn together. They play together. The young ones don't understand why their parents were once enemies." Lisa smiled. "Maybe that's for the best." Through the observation window, she could see a group of children playing in a park far below. Different species, different worlds of origin, but all laughing together under an alien sun. The age of extinction hunts was over. In its place, something new was growing. A galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of predation, understanding instead of fear. The Vorthak had hunted all species for 1,000 years, but in the end, humanity hadn't just made them pay for their crimes. They had taught them something better: how to be part of a community instead of predators standing alone. And for the first time in galactic history, the future looked bright for everyone.